We're actually a Chinese company, a Chinese ad tech company. But unlike the first panel session, we're actually a Chinese company that's launched globally as well. So we've got 9 offices around the world, helping brands, helping advertisers to not only advertise in China, reaching that lucrative audience through our data, but also targeting that luxury Chinese traveller when they're in market, when they're in the US, when they're in London, when they're in Paris, globally, because we kind of understand that is also a huge opportunity. There's 55 million Chinese outside of China itself, which is almost the size of the UK. So kind of how we sort of position ourselves is really focusing on the data that we use. So today we're going to talk about how that data is important to cross-channel marketing. We're going to talk about why that data in China is important and how it's different from the West, and kind of how to tackle that. And then we're going to talk about how to apply that to some real-life case studies that we've actually worked with. So also presenting with me is Yan, who is our head of product, and he's actually based in Shanghai. I'm actually in the London office. So we've kind of got the East and the West presenting for you guys today. So I think it's important to understand sort of what cross-channel marketing is. There's lots of different definitions, but if we should take a step back and really understand what it means. So it is the practice of using multiple channels to reach customers. And I think it's important to understand that a customer can be anywhere. They can be on a phone, they can be on a desktop, they can be traveling, they can be at home, they can be at work. But the importance is being able to reach them at the right time, and making sure it's the right audience for particular brands and their products. So what is also really important is, obviously, China is completely different to the West. It's different to the US. It's different to France. It's different to the UK. Does anybody know what this is? So this is actually this is in China. They're popping up all over the place. They're actually mobile-specific walkways. So you can only walk on the right if you're on your mobile phone, and you can only walk on the left if you're not on your mobile phone. This gives us a real sort of understanding in terms of what is important in China in terms of consumer habits. So everyone in here understands the importance of mobile. It's already popped up, I think, in every single presentation so far. And then obviously with that, I was thinking, how can I get through a presentation without mentioning WeChat? But I'm about to mention it. So with that is the social phenomenon, and obviously WeChat is kind of the hero, the king of China. So it's everybody knows that, but what's also important is, everyone talks about the tier 1 and the tier 2 cities, but if you take a step back, it's actually the tier 3 and the tier 4 cities that are really important as well, because that's where you actually have the higher mobile penetration. Tier 1, tier 2 cities generally more affluent, so people can afford desktops, people have the infrastructure to have that capability, whereas moving out, you've got all the local manufacturing handsets, the Xiaomi's and so forth, that produce the lower cost, easier entry handsets and phablets, which enable that higher mobile penetration. So understanding the market is the most important thing, and not just taking it as sort of that top line face value, and really understanding it is really important. So, and I think in China as well, I think one of the key indicators on those consumer trends is looking at the digital ad spend. So no surprises here, year-on-year ad spend in China is increasing. These numbers are from eMarketer, and it's in the US billions of dollars. So you can see social, you can see mobile, you can see display, all increasing year on year. So there's no real surprises there. But interestingly, the key takeout is to look at that as a percentage of the whole digital spend. So you can see from 2014 to 2018, mobile is the increasing spend, and display is the decreasing spend. And then social is fairly constant. So I think we've already had a slide fairly similar to this. I'm not going to talk through every single one of these one by one, but what I'm going to talk about is the data and why the landscape is different, because it's very different to how data and the online ecosystem works in the West. So out here in Paris, here in London, in the US, everything is controlled by the demand side. And when I mean the demand side, I mean we have governing bodies such as the IAB, which kind of rule the roost. They tell people what ad formats they can and can't run. They make sure that technology is aligned across all publishers to make sure that running campaigns is a smooth, efficient process. You have big management tools that can run across multiple different publishers, making it a very easy, streamlined process to run programmatic campaigns and other digital campaigns in the market. China is the opposite. So Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent, they all work very siloed. Everybody knows they don't get on. They're very competitive against each other. And what that means, it's the economy that's led by the supply side. So each of them has their own ecosystem. They have a complete stack from a DSP to an SSP to an exchange to their own DMP, their own data sets, and it's very much a walled garden. So it's very difficult to run cross campaigns using data effectively across all three different publishers. So it's a real difference between sort of China versus the rest of the world. And so naturally that creates big problems. So I think the first panel spoke about Western companies trying to break into China. Yes, it's this huge opportunity, this huge scale, but when Western tech players particularly go into China, they find this very difficult to break down because of these huge differences between all three of them, and also what is comfortable in the West is not comfortable in the East from a technology point of view. But despite the challenges, obviously there's this huge opportunity, this huge scale. And yes, it is very different in terms of sort of the back end in that respect, but it's still very sophisticated in terms of what you can execute in China. You've still got in-feeds, you've still got splash ads, you've still got placements and banners. It still looks like it would look in the West. A lot of these things would appear on Facebook and Instagram and programs like that. But it's also very easy to buy programmatically as well in China, but only very siloed. So you can still manage, you can still do those guaranteed programmatic buys to get the right inventory and the right audience. Sorry about that. So lastly from me, iClick, what we didn't touch that. So we simplify the process and we kind of take a step back and go, there's still 680 million PC users, there's still 600 million mobile users daily. How can we easily make it, how can we easily target those consumers? We have a ton of different partners, as you can see, ranging from social to search to vertical, from different verticals to tons and tons of different publishers. But what is important is how we can make that simple for brands to actually touch into that consumer, whether they're in China or, as I said earlier, whether it's that global luxury consumer as well. I'm just going to hand over to Jan.
Okay, so we're almost at lunchtime, so I'd like to make this a little more interactive. Can everyone hear me fine, even without a mic? Good. Okay, so this is Porsche. What do you guys think is Porsche's general target markets in Europe in terms of demographics? How would you describe them? Anyone? Sorry? Luxury, sure. And in terms of demographics, gender, age, what do you think it would be? 50 male? Not pessimistic? Okay, 50 male. Location-wise, geography-wise, where would you think? Let's say in France, what would be the main markets for it? In the south. Okay. Sorry? Okay. Okay, so somewhere where you really have big spaces to run around, right? So in general, when we spoke to Porsche in China a few years back, basically they told us globally, generically, they're looking at a 30 to 50-year-old male. And of course, they're looking, well, in Shanghai, everywhere is kind of spacious, but in China, everywhere is kind of spacious. But where exactly would you think their target market would be in terms of geography? Everyone would think maybe Shanghai, maybe Beijing, the more affluent cities, maybe Guangzhou. These guys are rich, right? But the answer, where do you think is the top sales city in terms of sales attribution for Porsche in China? Anyone take a guess? Very interesting guess. Very interesting. Any others? Shanxi. Wow, we have a lot of people who actually understand China. So these are actually very, very good guesses. But the answer is Wenzhou. Wenzhou is a very, very small city in China. They pride themselves to be the Jews of China. They're behind a lot of our economic developments, real estate investments, etc. Well, and Wenzhou, as a very small city, is actually generating top sales. But what is it the market they are buying from Porsche? True, males. That's kind of true. But we're talking about the 18 to 25-year-olds as one of the strongest segments in China. So what are we trying to get at? Essentially, what we believe from our common sense in Europe and in the West, when applied to China, sometimes it's completely off the chart. So how can we really formulate a go-to-market strategy for China when we're sitting out here in Europe or even in the United States? So we're talking about cross-channel, but as a product person, as a more technical person, I believe when we're talking about marketing, we're talking about advertising. At the end of the day, first of all, it boils down to who you want to talk to, not necessarily which media you want to go through, but who you want to engage with. And if we're talking about cross-channel engagement strategy, then we need to come back and look at cross-channel audience strategy. Who are these people we want to target? So we talked about silos. Darren has talked about silos between Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent. Today, iClick is Baidu and Tencent's largest partners inside and outside of China. And as a result, we are able to, as a third party, bring in all the data from all kinds of platforms together in one single data set and in one single pool to help understand users holistically across their behavior, from search to social to web behavior. And I think we've had a few interesting questions in the panel today from Normandy as well about data in China. Can we believe them? Are the demographics correct? Right? And how do we engage with people who want to come to China? How fundamentally do we know these people are coming from China to London and Paris? So what can we do? I won't go into specifics and details. We have search data across 400,000 websites, mid to premium website, social data, guys like Tencent and Sina, both still relevant in the market. But guys like Tencent, they're working on very exciting stuff in the market with us as well. Through social accounts, it is the most accurate way of verifying a user across their PC screen and the mobile screen, because any other algorithm would be essentially guessing. But today, Tencent has 700 million active users who log in on their PC and on their mobile phones with the same account. So it's not guessing. They know this is the same person. And because of the wider range of what Baidu and Tencent owns within China, Baidu kind of used to own Qunar, the second largest online travel agent in China. Tencent owns a stake in Elong, the third largest OTA platform in China. And with all these information, all these data, they're actually able to distill out who's buying the ticket to Paris right now, what hotel is he going to be staying at. And with all that data bundled together, we can actually really siphon out who exactly your demand users are. And this is, at the end of the day, I think, at the heart of marketing. How do we identify our target markets? So, most platforms define it broadly. Okay, we talk about luxury. Porsche, of course, luxury. But if we're talking about really defining what the market should be, a couple of years ago when Porsche first came up with the Macan, the smaller version of the Cayenne, still a sports utility vehicle, we asked them, so how do you want to define this market? They told us straight, the BMW X3. Whoever wants to buy a BMW X3 must be potential target audiences for my Porsche Macan. I've served auto clients in Asia for over 12 years now. This is not just Porsche. Everyone does that. In China, they manufacture cars to benchmark against other car models that they think are making money. So there are very unique car models that are actually being launched in China that's custom tailored for the China market. So we'll go into that a little more. So essentially, Porsche is not just looking at luxury. They're not just looking at 20 to 40, 20 to 50. They're looking at their competitors. They're defining their product line by the keywords, the fundamental terms that they would describe in a business plan and a marketing proposal. We want to empower everyone with that kind of technology to be able to pull out the keywords that matter to you in describing your market and being able to run that market numbers in real time. So identify the people that really matter to you. So as an example, we'll continue to talk a little bit about cars. So in terms of market identification, we talked about competitors. So for the BMW 7 Series, a lot more affordable than the Porsche. Who do you think their key competitor would be, both in Europe and China? What are the names that come to mind? Any ideas? 7 Series, Mercedes-Benz? Which of the Mercedes-Benz portfolio? E-Class? E-Class? E-Class will be closer to 5 and 3, so S maybe, so between E and S. Any others? Audi. Audi, where did Audi come from? Oh, Audi. What model would you think is relevant? A8. Yes. A8, A6. Okay. Sorry? Tesla. Interesting. But yeah, different strategy in China right now. But yes, potentially a very interesting competitor to 7 Series. So we asked the market and we asked the clients who they think it is. Audi A8. Exactly. The Volkswagen Phaeton. And the last one is Mercedes-Benz S-Class. Okay, who has heard of the Phaeton? Volkswagen, German car. You've heard of Phaeton. Do you know much about this car? About its capacities, etc.? Oh, okay, it's good enough. Most people haven't even heard of this car before. Essentially, it became very popular in China. It looks just like a Passat, which is a normal sedan. But the interesting thing about Phaeton is that it looks like a Passat on the outside, which is a standard 2.5 liter sedan. But on the inside, it's actually very luxurious. It's very spacious. It's almost the size of an Audi A6 or A8 in terms of internal space. It's for backseat drivers, people who have drivers, who just want a luxury of that. But who exactly is the Phaeton going for? The government officials. Because they don't want to be showing off to the general public, but they do want to enjoy the luxury of having a car. So the Phaeton became a very interesting car after the Audi became wildly popular in China for executives and top government officials. So the Audi A8, Mercedes S-Class, and VW Phaeton. Through data, we realized for all people who are now in the market looking at BMW 7 Series, 2.77% of BMW 7 Series in-market audiences are also looking at the Audi A8. So what does that mean? Only out of 100 people, only 3 who want to buy a BMW are also interested in Audi. Okay, so let's look at the next number. Well, about Volkswagen, this Volkswagen. Volkswagen skyrockets to about 16.52%. And then the last one, Mercedes-Benz S-Class, 28.5%. So, which we say that Mercedes-Benz would be their closest competitor because the same group of people who would buy Mercedes-Benz and a BMW 7 Series are very similar. But is that really their target competitor? Through our data, we realize the car model with the highest audience overlap, which means people who are considering between 2 models. BMW 7 Series overlaps most with the Volkswagen Touareg. So the Touareg is actually one of the first models from Volkswagen that was launched based in Asia as a collaboration with Porsche because they have the same chassis as the Cayenne. So it's a Porsche, cheaper version of a Porsche. But this car is actually not cheap. It's about the same price as the BMW 7 Series in China. But why? Why Touareg? And then we expanded that research to the rest of the luxury SUVs in China. And we realized on average, even the Audi Q5 outperforms the Audi A8. The Mercedes GLK is actually a higher competitor over the S-Class. What this means, what does this mean? When we typically look at our competitors, we look in our class, sedans versus sedans, price versus price. But we seldom step out, take a step back, and think about what consumers are thinking. This is data that reflects what people are searching right now and browsing right now, what they put into their consideration set. So what it's telling us is that consumers don't really compare head-to-head between Audi A8 and the BMW 7 Series. Why? Because The BMW 7 Series is partially for front seat drivers, people who enjoy the sheer driving pleasure, right? But the Audi A8 in China, basically everyone who drives it is a driver, not the owner of the car. So the person who's looking at the car is not the one who's driving it. Very different users. But when you look at the users who actually ride the car itself, for BMW 7 Series, successful with a bit more age, family, they start thinking about safety. They start thinking about space. They want the power, but they also want the comfort for the family. So the luxury SUV class becomes a direct competitor. This is what the market is saying. This is what the data can tell us when we're formulating a strategy for China. So who exactly is your competitor? This needs to be a bottom-up approach in our perspective, because we have the data at hand. All that data was run through our systems. It takes about 30 seconds to run every query, just to see, catch a glimpse of what the market should look like. So with that, we can potentially then identify potential market opportunities and drive that data into actionable insight for a go-to-market strategy in China. Another very quick example would be, I think earlier on in the panel we talked about Huawei, one of the leading mobile device manufacturers in China. Through their marketing, they want to be able to identify their market and drive loyalty towards their brand. So relying on big data and all the insights that we can pull in through that data itself. Huawei has identified their own key product, P8, which interestingly enough, coincidentally, today is the worldwide launch for Huawei's new model within the P series, the P9. They'll be launching globally. So again, we're working with them for this campaign. So the methodology is this. From people through PR and through all kinds of media, they're already interested in the Huawei P8. These are the first bunch of seed users. And from that, extended to the loyal Huawei users who have been using or are interested in older models of Huawei. And they're competing products in the market with the same specs at the same point in time. We realized that through these people, that their target audience, based on all those search parameters, are 30 to 39 years old, mostly male, and of course, while their competitive products actually captures the younger the market, from 20 to 39 years old. But more interestingly enough, all these people that we found are also highly interested in real estate, luxury, and insurance. So with these as a basis, we can then really identify these audiences and execute across channels to engage these users. Channels from portals in China, the major supply-side players like BAT, to video sites in China. Outside of China, typically, all of us are mostly consuming video on YouTube, Hulu, and Netflix. These three platforms basically encapsulate 80 to 90% of all video users. But in China, to encapsulate the same 80% of people in China, you need 16 video platforms. It's a highly fragmented market. But all these, out of these 16, the 6 that we see here are basically mostly public companies, or backed by public companies as it is. So through these different channels and very different formats, you can then engage users from a top-level branding awareness perspective, all the way down to a more tactical and conversion-driven model. So formats like this, in-stream video ads, it might be prevalent here in terms of Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, but in China, it is a format that is being starting to be widely used by all kinds of premium publishers in China. And marketing methodology in China, even for Huawei, it's not just simply tactical. I've gone through an entire life cycle from pre-launch. They would have kind of teaser campaigns and then countdown campaigns. Typically, will go 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and boom, the launch itself. And subsequently, they will have the world premiere that they will promote on the same day itself, and then subsequently you will see a voice sustenance campaign to continue to drive awareness and interest in their products. And what we've been able to see, that kind of results, cross campaigns, cross channels. It's not just about impressions and clicks. But we've seen that through this campaign, cross channel, they were actually able to drive over 300,000 new followers for their phone itself on Weibo and social media. And at the same time, if we look at search indexes like Baidu and Taobao index, which is similar to Google Trends, and for Taobao, it's basically an index of the products that are being searched on Taobao itself. Seeing that basically after a campaign like this through multi-channel execution, you're able to drive search performances over 21 times pre and post a campaign like that. And while competitors, while they start higher in the market, they typically have less than 10x in increase. So, maybe we'll show it one page. All right, just taking out. So, in closing, in China we say 不入虎穴，焉得虎子. It means that you can't get the tiger's cub without first entering the tiger's cave. China might sound daunting to a lot of people. There are a lot of concerns over data security, the validity of its data, whether it's true or not. There are a lot of concerns like this, but what we aim to do is to bring together the best of all these kinds of unstructured and fragmented market of China together into a comprehensive and understandable go-to-market strategies for advertisers and brands who want to be able to understand the Chinese market more. So I end with that, and I thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.